MV3 Traders Futures Trade Radio is brought to you by the Ultimate Trader's Guide, your one-stop shop for the most valuable income-producing information on the internet. Go to ultimatetradersguide.net to learn more. Link in the description below.
Order submitted. Order filled. Target filled. Order filled.
Yeah.
Order filled. Target filled. Target filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order cancelled. Order filled. Order filled. Order submitted. Order filled. Order filled. Order filled. Order filled.
MV3 Traders Futures Trade Radio is brought to you by the Ultimate Trader's Guide, your one-stop shop for the most valuable income-producing information on the internet. Go to ultimatetradersguide.net to learn more. Link in the description below. All right, what's going on? What's going on? How we doing? Hope everybody has had a good week. Sound is coming through good. All right, so somewhat of an interesting morning. You see, overnight we had basically a little bit of buy up of inventory, markup of inventory. Price didn't really move too far outside of our mean, so we were just hanging around overnight. Then we dipped lower at the open. Right before the open, we started to look lower for cheaper inventory. Drop that down around the open, near -2, before we had this lift right before 10 o'clock. Apparently there was some sort of economic news that it wasn't marked as on the calendar that I was looked at. On the calendar that I usually look at, it wasn't marked as something extremely significant, but it's supposed to be consumer sentiment. And that was used to, throw price all around, give us some extra volatility. Let's see where we're at now. So I just went to get a tea break, so I'm just getting back to my charts to see how things look now. So we're pretty much still settled inside of my neutral zone. Nice little range. Not really doing a whole lot after that little excitement. Needed a water break. Right, so we picked up some inventory at the PR low. Lifted that inventory like halfway between the PR low and PR 50, and we're just in our shop conducting business at this point. Have some budgeting going on. See, normally at 10, I don't even care about what the news is. If it's a significant news or any like a economic event, I'll put it on my calendar. But you gotta understand, this is it's chess, not checkers. It's actually kind of deeper than chess. But I don't put a whole lot of weight into those things, because there's just certain times and certain patterns that are recognizable, to where at the end of the day you cannot know about any of that once you recognize it, and you can develop a plan around it. So for me personally, I like to be flat around 10 every single day, no matter what. And in certain other times too, I look out for. It just depends on what the market is doing in that time period. So I didn't see, I heard it in another room or somewhere else that about the news that, or the economic event at 10 o'clock. It was consumer sentiment or something like that. But I was going to be flat at it either way, because it's 10 o'clock. In this period, it's just not been the best time to be holding a position for me, for what I do. Now, you can have a strategy to where you develop something to where you can still hold through volatility. But for me personally, I don't do that. I like to be flat during those key moments. So, so now we're looking at an inventory lift back to our main supply near +1. So it'll be interesting to see if we break out of this and if we continue higher. We're also trading near the highs of a daily range, following yesterday's, excitement. So it'll be interesting to see what happens from here. We stay inside of this range or we go higher. Right. So I have a question of the day. And it leads to a lot of this and what I just said. All right, it is related to what I just expressed. The question is, what are you doing that no one else that you know of is doing? What are you doing that no one else is doing? And this is like a lesson that comes from non-traders, from a non-trader. This non-trader today being, it's actually two. They had it's Kobe Bryant is the main one, right? It's the non-trader. You can get a lot of lessons, a lot of trading lessons from Kobe Bryant, just the way that he moved with his Mamba mentality. But there was an interview with him and Tracy McGrady. And they were talking about, they were just talking about their relationship and how they competed in basketball and all that. But Tracy McGrady was telling the story about, he was talking about when they were both rookies. They both came straight out of high school into the NBA. And they were rookies during the off season. I think T-Mac was 18 and Kobe was 19. And he goes into the story about how they were at some sort of basketball event. They were in a hotel during the off season, and he asked Kobe if he was going to work out. So Kobe responds with something to the effect of, like, work out? Why would I do that? It's the off season. I don't need to work out, right? So T-Mac was like, all right, cool. And, he goes back to his room and does his thing, just relaxes, chills out, leaves his room. However, whatever he did in between his room and this moment where he saw Kobe in the gym working out. And from that point, he's like, oh, okay, I see. He understood like the mental games that Kobe plays. Now, during the interview, Kobe kind of laughed it off as, T-Mac didn't understand sarcasm. He had a poor, way of noticing sarcasm. But what we know about Kobe and his Mamba mentality, just like the guy that he looked up to, Jordan, he did play, kind of like those mental games like that. But we know Kobe has been one of the greatest basketball players of all time, arguably, one of the quote unquote GOATs. And the main reason that you'll hear any NBA player that talks about him is because he would just do things that no one else is willing to do. And that was his mentality. Okay, everybody else likes to get up at 6 in the morning or 8 in the morning or whatever and work out. Okay, I'm gonna get up at 4. And where some other players may put in, maybe 8-10 hours a day, well, I'm gonna put in 15 hours a day. Every waking moment that I'm up and that I can put to basketball, whether that's working out, I'm working on some sort of skill and watching game film, whatever. I'm focused on basketball. I'm willing to do what other players are not willing to do because I want to be the greatest of all time. So with trading and anything else, really, if you want to be great at something, a key question to ask yourself is, what are you willing to do that no one else in your industry, in your field, whatever that is that you're trying to be great at, what are you willing to do that no one else is willing to do? And in that, there's a lot of room to do a lot of great things and to stand out from the crowd. So with trading, that's how you have to do that to find your edge, because your edge is literally doing what other people are not capable of doing, what no one else is capable of doing, or just know what no one else is doing. It can even be what very few are willing to do or capable of doing. And this was kind of triggered from, I always say, like, I keep my ears to the streets, and I'm in rooms and stuff like that. I'm always paying attention to other traders. Now, here's a secret that I'm gonna release here that I haven't really spoken on before. The reason that I'm in rooms and stuff like that is I don't go into rooms and join groups and stuff to really get tips and advice and strategies and stuff like that from other traders. That's not what I'm there for. What I'm there for is to see the mentality and the thought process of other traders. Because if we're in this business that's about people, at the end of the day, this industry is about people. Well, I should understand. I think it's valuable for me to understand how the other people that participate in this environment thinks and how they operate, right? And the way that they move, and just the person, not necessarily what they're doing, but the person themselves. That's why I pay attention to stuff like that, and I go into rooms and stuff so that I can see what other people are thinking. And if this is competitive like everybody else says that it is, or that people like, if this is competitive like the gurus say that it is, it's as competitive as an environment like they say it is, to where every time you place a trade, you're in direct competition with another trader, that kind of stuff, then why would I not try to understand the other player? If I'm playing basketball, if I'm going one-on-one, it's actually more benefit there's a bigger benefit for me to understand how that player thinks versus his skills that he's capable of. Because he can have all the skills and he can have a deep bag and he can do all the things, but if I know that he's not confident in his left hand, then I can completely mess his game up by taking him left, by making him drive left, or even playing a little chess with that and making him think I want him to drive left, so he tries to overforce the right, and then I come back on the right and I get the steal. Like, these are things that this is how I used to play basketball, right? It was a mental game for me, and like defensively, that was my thing. So it kind of also plays into how I trade too, right? So with all that being said, like, what triggered this whole thing was I was in a room and there was a time where the market was really slow and it was just chopping around, and that time period was referred to coffee time. And even I put in the room, I put a message in the room to where, well, this is the time where I learned the most, but it was, for other people, it was coffee time. So with that, in that moment where other people were bored and they didn't really care to sit there and watch, they wanted to go take a coffee break or take a break, and that's what you want to do. That's cool, right? But for me personally, I saw that as an opportunity for me to do what other traders were not willing to do. And because of that, I've been able to find opportunities in this market to where I can trade at any time that I want and only need a couple hours. Like, I can trade in less than an hour and meet the goals that I'm trying to meet. And it just becomes to me executing. Like this morning, I had a lot of opportunities in that wild price action, and I benefited from most of them, meaning I was profitable overall. But I had to stop trading early because I started having technical issues, and then I switched to sim, and then I started, using some other techniques and strategies and just actually trying to test out some other things. But all of that was even possible for me to do because I did what I saw something that other traders were not willing to do, and I leaned into that, like trading inside of a range. I hear all the time where people say, don't trade inside of a range. And I talked about this before on another, FTR, another Futures Trade Radio episode, to where someone asked, they put a screenshot of a range, and someone asked how to trade that range, and the overall response was to not trade in that range, to trade the breakouts. Well, one, the people that move the markets, that are responsible for moving the markets, they know that that's the overall sentiment. So why would they not take advantage of that? They're trying to make money too. That gives you an opportunity to, what I call, be an affiliate for those people and participate when they participate. But that's another topic for another day. I'm not going to go deep down into that, the specifics of that. But it just comes back to finding opportunities and the things that other traders or other people are not willing to do. And like I said, I'm talking about trading, but this goes into everything. And on that subject, what is, during those choppy, low volatility moments, there a lot of times it's referred to as being boring, like watching paint dry on the wall. But what is boring? Boring is really just a state of mind. So you can choose if you want to be bored with a situation, or if you want to actually find the entertainment or the interest in that situation. So I use myself again for the example here. I used to tell myself that ranges were boring, and it was like watching paint dry on the wall, right? It was like watching paint dry. And that would take my focus away from the charts. But then I decided to actually get away from that. I don't remember the exact time when I make this, I don't remember the light bulb moment, but I did get away from finding that low volatility moment as boring. And then that's what led to me eventually being able to find out how to trade inside of that. But that whole concept, that whole idea of something being boring or not, it's just a state of mind, right? It's your own personal beliefs about that. Because I love basketball, but other people find basketball to be a boring sport. They don't like it, right? They don't, so it's my personal preferences and my personal beliefs about that event or that situation that leads me, or at least, that leads me to put that label on it, right? So like something as simple as watching paint dry, that's a saying that people, cliche that a lot of people use. Now, most people would think watching paint dry is boring, right? Because you can't see it actually happening. But can you though? You can go and you can, actually research what it takes to make a wet substance become hard and dry onto another surface. Once you put it on another surface, this once wet substance, what made it turn into a hard substance that can withstand all kind of different conditions within that environment. So I can take some paint, and this paint, I can move it around my brush when it's in this can, and it's a liquid substance. But when I put it on this wall and it dries and it solidifies itself on the wall, I can, that wall can be rained on. I can throw water on the wall. That paint, if it's good paint, it's not gonna move. It's not gonna change its form. Now, at a very micro scale, it does. But just I'm talking about like from the human eyes, with your regular, with your eye view. If you throw water on the wall with paint, you don't see a change in the paint. You see the water there on top of the paint, and then you can remove the water off the wall, off the paint, and the paint will still be there, but you took the water off, or the water evaporated. So you can go into, and you can find interest in it from that perspective, to where now watching paint dry is not as boring. You can go and you can take a microscope, or you can find a way to zoom into that the actual action of the paint drying on the wall. You record that, and then you can go and you can watch that whole process happen, and you can find interest in it that way, right? So it's all just a state of mind. It's all how you see it, the ideas that you have around that, your beliefs around that. So if you want to find, you can take that whole concept right there, and that's how you can find things that people are not willing to do, and use that to your advantage. So, with all that being said, what are you willing to do that others won't, if you want to be great? Now, if you want to be average, if you want to do the average thing, then don't waste your time on that, right? Because you just do what everybody else is doing to be average. That's what average actually means. But if you want to be great, what are you willing to do that no one else wants? So with all that being said, that's taken us, well, we're watching price now, right? Leonardo da Vinci perspective. So that's taking price up above +2. we had this nice steady climb held up by automation. Took a brief dip, dropped the inventory to around 720. And now we're finding supply at 760. So, that's a nice push from a overall perspective relative to what we saw before the open. So right now they kind of put a ceiling. Wholesale has found a shop with a cap at 760 for now. And I wouldn't necessarily, you can look at 730 to 720 as that is the somewhat seasoned inventory zone, but we'll see if they bring price back down there. We just picked up some quick inventory off of +2, which is around 747. Finding some supply response again at around right before 760. A little bit of drop of supply. I wouldn't necessarily call that a front run. But right now we're at this moment. Wholesale has kind of set up shop. See what the daily perspective is. All right, so we're right above yesterday's high, which to me, that is a way of introducing more buyers, getting more buyers interested in in what's going on. Also, it's going to trigger some shorts as well. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes from here. I won't be around to see it because I got other things to do. And on that note, that's gonna do it for today's episode. I appreciate everybody for coming through, and I hope everybody have a good rest of your session, a good rest of your day, and a good weekend. And I'll see you on the next one. Trade it easy.